Welcome back to Power Play. In our top story, the federal government's second phase of major projects has officially been unveiled. The list focuses on new mines, LNG, and hydro development. And according to the feds, these projects, along with the first round announced in September, are worth a combined $116 billion in investments. What is key to their execution? Energy and Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson is live with us right now. Hi, Minister. A pleasure to see you. Thank you very much for making the time.
Good to be here.
I think you could hear there Mr. Poilievre's chief line of criticism, which I did want to put to you. It's essentially that, this list isn't as big of a deal as your government is characterizing it as. And he pointed to the Sisson mine, which I believe was approved originally 10 years ago. I know the LNG project on this list, its environmental assessment got the go-ahead in September from your government. Are you making safe choices to mitigate political risk with this list today?
Absolutely not. What we're doing is focusing on showing the world that Canada gets things done, that we've moved from should we build to how do we build, and that's exactly what we've been doing. The Prime Minister has said that the Major Projects Office his goal is to attract $500 billion of private sector capital to Canada so that we can retool and create new jobs in the face of the unjust tariffs and the trade war we have with the United States. The first list of projects will enable $60 billion of investment in Canada. The list announced today will be $55 billion. We're doing what we said we would do.
Does that list provide the certainty for that investment? And I'll take the first list, for example, in which LNG Canada Phase 2 topped the list. From my understanding, LNG Canada has yet to, push the green light, pull the pin, whatever you want to call it, on moving forward with that investment. They had yet to make a final investment decision. They haven't done so since they got on that list, unless you know something I don't.
So what LNG Canada 2 has said is they will be making their final investment decision early next year. They're reconfirming all of their pricing with their general contractors, and the goal, and they've been clear, is to make an announcement early next year. So we are working hard to attract what would be one of the largest private sector investments in the history of Canada. That is in everyone's interest in Canada.
And certainly, I'm not arguing that it isn't in anyone's interest. I'm simply putting to you, if I recall, prior to them being put, that project being put on the list, they had already been saying that they would make a final investment decision in early next year. So being put on the list didn't exactly accelerate the certainty with which you're saying, your government is providing investors like LNG Canada.
So I know your audience doesn't always have complete clarity on how these projects work, but there are a huge number of decisions still for the proponent to make. There were a number of things they needed from the federal and provincial government that through the Major Projects Office were coordinated between the federal government and the provincial government, and that clarity has been provided to the proponents. There's 5 different equity proponents for LNG Canada 2. They say they have what they need from us now, and they will be making their decision in the spring. So we have significantly advanced the likelihood that we will see a final investment decision in the spring.
They had also raised the prospect of more certainty around GHG. And our audience will know, and certainly I have clarity around the fact that there are a bunch of companies basically that together form LNG Canada, and some of them have made their own requests for more clarity and certainty around your GHG policy as well. In the budget, your government said basically that the emissions cap could be removed, predicated, though, on a number of different things happening, including the strengthening of the industrial price on carbon, but you did not define what that meant. Why not create the certainty when you had the chance?
What we have said is and Minister Abruzin and the Prime Minister are taking the lead on this, that if we follow through on the methane regulations, which we plan to do, and if certain initiatives are done on a carbon capture basis, we would not need to move forward with the emissions cap. and we stand by that. And I think we've given the clarity LNG needs to make their decision. They're comfortable with where we are, and are planning to make that decision in the spring. And I'm quite hopeful from the conversations I've had with all five of the proponents there that we'll have a positive investment decision. I believe the CEO of Shell, who's the lead in that particular project, has been quite optimistic and said he thinks Canada is one of the very best places in the world to invest. So I'm quite optimistic that we'll have a good outcome in the spring.
Are you worried about Alaska LNG and competition for capital now that Trump is so clearly backing that project, that they even went to APEC and signed a deal with South Korea?
Look, the world is full of competitors. Canada's not afraid to compete. I think we're very comfortable that when we compete, we'll win. What we hear from Japan, what I heard from the Minister of Energy from Japan, what I heard from the Minister of Energy from Korea when they were here for the G7 a couple of weeks ago, is they are very keen to buy Canadian LNG. They view Canadian LNG as a safe source of supply. They view Canada as a country that's not going to use access to LNG for political coercion, and they really like the fact that we produce the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world. Both those countries find that quite attractive. In fact, Japan at the G7 signed an agreement, initiated an agreement where we can improve our carbon accounting for LNG so that they can be more comfortable that the Canadian LNG is the best product out there, because they want to buy our clean LNG.
Is it your view that you're providing enough of incentive, though, for them to invest in the projects here, given and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but Trump has, gone on Fox. He's talking about it nonstop. His delegates are out there. It is a huge deal to the White House. And if they're good at something, it's selling, right? And they went to APEC. They made a deal. The signal, I spoke to a number of executives today, the signal was we're moving on an aggressive timeline. We're still waiting on capital investment decisions, as you pointed out, next spring.
So I don't think Alaska LNG has hit final investment decisions. So I'm focused on Canada, and what I hear from our allies, and I heard this in Germany, I heard this in the UK, we heard it from Japan, we heard it from Korea. They became beholden to one country for their LNG. They became beholden to Russia. They all realized that was a terrible mistake, and that cost their economies dearly. They've all been clear to us that they do not want to become beholden to one other country, and that Canada represents a very important diversity of supply opportunity for them that they're keen to take advantage of.
Just before I let you go, Minister, I did want to ask you about, I know you and the Prime Minister don't love talking about, getting questions about pipelines, and often your response is around that there's no official proponent. I concede that. But what we have heard from potential proponents is something that I mentioned in the conversation about LNG, which is a requirement that they say they need for more certainty around the types of policies that they have identified as irritants: the tanker ban, the emissions cap, which I would put to you respectfully is not as clear as you make it out to be. I don't understand when the industrial carbon price reaches the level that strengthening said it would in the budget, and a host of other policies, basically, that they say, like C-69, are standing in the way of them coming forward and saying, I want to build this pipeline. Why have C5 to get around a regulatory burden when you could just remove that regulatory burden in the first place?
So what I heard Premier Smith say 2 days ago, and I understand she said again today, she's very happy with our list, and that she is optimistic about the memorandum of understanding that is in active discussions between the federal government and the Alberta government, and she remains very optimistic there's a good outcome for both Canada and for Alberta. I believe I'm up in Timmins, so I didn't get to see all of the Prime Minister's comments today, but my understanding is he also said that he felt good about the negotiations with Alberta. And so I think we need to let them take their course, and we'll learn very soon whether we've got to a good place or not. But I'm feeling quite optimistic.
Just very quickly, I'm not asking on behalf of Premier Smith. I'm sort of speaking about it in the framing of all the companies that you have said, like, haven't come forward, basically, to pitch a pipeline. And they have clearly identified that. I understand you're saying leave it to we'll wait for the MOU. But do you have, in principle, a position as Minister of Energy? You know, should that tanker ban be gone, basically? That's the only thing standing in the way.
So I think I think a really important part is an industrial carbon price. And I think Alberta and the federal government both agree that we need clarity on an industrial carbon price. That's one of the core parts of the discussion around the MOU. We've said in our budget we intend to give the industry clarity through up to 2050, what an industrial carbon price would look like. If we did that, that would provide the impetus for something like Pathways to get built. Pathways would fundamentally change the carbon intensity of our oil industry, and that's a key precondition for moving forward with a pipeline. The Prime Minister's been clear about that. I think Premier Smith is also comfortable with that as a approach for going forward. That's a live conversation as part of the memorandum of understanding, and from what I'm hearing from Premier Smith and from the Prime Minister, we're getting very close on that.
Is the tanker ban part of the live conversation, though? That's my question.
I think we're focusing on first things first. The first thing we need to do is figure out an industrial carbon price and figure out how we get Pathways built. And I'm not going to get into the details of private discussions. What has been very public is part of the discussion between the federal government and Alberta is we need to create an environment where Pathways gets built as a first step. And to do that, we need clarity on an industrial carbon price so that the industry can plan how to develop their resources in an environmentally responsible way.
Okay, Minister, I'll leave it on that note. I appreciate your time this evening very much. Thank you.
Thank you.